Hey there, guys. Today we are back with some more geography now, this time on to Bulgaria. Don't really have anything to say about, actually, fun fact. This is one of the few countries, this is like the only country really where I actually know someone from it. I was born there. Actually, he went back there. Shout out to that guy. I met him in elementary school. He moved to the United States with his family. And then now he's going to a university in Bulgaria now for his master's, I believe. Good on him. Good on him. Yeah, let's just dive right in.
Bulgaria. Where have I heard that before? Oh yeah, Victor Crumb from the Harry Potter books. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, now you want to watch this episode, right?
If anything, Harry Potter makes me want to watch it less.
It's time to learn geography.
I don't like J.K. Rowling nor her
Hey
writing.
everybody, I'm your host Barbie.
Even before it was, I never really cared for Harry Potter, even as a kid. Like, I didn't like Harry Potter at all as a kid. Now I'm like lukewarm on it. The movies, of course, the books are kind of.
I'd like to take this moment to coin a term, tripster. A tripster is a travel hipster, someone who is so over the mainstream tourist destinations and they only prefer to go to the bleakest, most obscure regions of the planet. That being said, tripsters watching this video, take notes. Also, let's dissect the flag.
I feel like that was a diss not only on tripsters, but a diss on Bulgaria. Simple flag, I like it.
Tricolor consisting of 3 equally sized horizontal bands, white, green, and red. When it comes to symbolism, even Bulgarians themselves aren't 100% sure exactly what each band means. However, it's generally accepted that they are inspired by the Pan-Slav nationalist movement colors. However, it's also kind of accepted that these are the definitions. The white represents love and peace and freedom and spirituality. The green represents the youthfulness as a new liberated state, agriculture, character, and the beauty of nature.
They do be a young country.
The valor and, once again, the blood spilled of those who fought for the country
Yeah.
and for the heroes
Blood.
of Bulgaria. Okay, that was kind of easy. Moving on. Very few people actually know where Bulgaria is on a map.
I know where it is.
When you look at it, you'll kind of realize that its position is kind of important to the entire continent of Europe. First of all, Bulgaria is located on the eastern part of the Balkan Peninsula, bordered by 5
Balkans, where there are never any political and military disputes. Never.
other countries and the Black Sea to the east. Since Bulgaria is Europe's closest point to Turkey, it's kind of seen as like the crossroads between Europe and Asia. The capital is Sofia, located in the west, and the country is divided into 28 provinces.
Dang,
And the capital, Sofia,
lots of provinces
acts as
for a
its
small
own
country.
province as well. Sofia has a wonderfully unique ambiance as a city that still retains its residue shavings from the former Soviet identity, but with a modern westernized democratic appeal that exudes through the billboards and media. About 80% of the border with Romania rests on the mighty Danube River, and the borders with Serbia, Macedonia, or the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, and Greece rest on the mountains and hills like the Balkan Range, the Pirin Range, and the Rhodope Range. Bulgaria is very lucky because in addition to having a nice geological mountainous shell to encapsulate the eastern side, they have a wonderful Black Sea to the east, which has played a heavily influential role in the development of the Bulgarian nation. The coast is classified as a humid subtropical climate zone with an abundance of pristine golden beaches, the most popular ones off the coast of Varna and Burgas. In the Black Sea, Bulgaria owns 5 small islands and islets, each named
Nice.
after a saint and each with a unique charm and backstory. For example, St. Thomas Island is one of the only places in all of Bulgaria where cacti grow. St. Ivan Island, which supposedly has the remains of John the Baptist from the Bible, and St. Anastasia Island, which had a jail that prisoners escaped from long ago. Bulgaria's land comprises of a lot of history, to say the very least. In the south, by the Gorna Krepost, you have the Perperikon, the Thracian city ruins of the strange ancient culture of the Thracians. In Kazanluk, you have the Thracian tomb of Kazanlak. Yeah, the ancient culture of Thrace had kind of a lot to do with this area. Nobody quite exactly knows what the downfall of the Thracians were, but reading into historical accounts on how they acted on a regular basis, it's not that hard to speculate on a few probable theories. We're sociopaths. Yes, you are, Thrace. Yes, you are. Now, of course, the monuments tell a funny story, but the natural land formations get even crazier.
I actually don't know much about Thrace, so I can't
The
really speak
Bulgarians
on
have
it.
a saying: when God divided up the nations amongst the people, the Bulgarians were late, so instead God gave them a piece of heaven. Now, whether or not you agree or disagree with that, you can't deny the fact that Bulgaria does have some pretty nice grounds. First of all, the country is divided into two general topographical areas: the mountainous east with the Balkan, Rila, and Radapiz ranges, and the low-lying flatter Danube Valley and the Gorno-Trakiska lowlands, in which multiple rivers and lakes can be found, in addition to the majority of agricultural plots and grazelands for livestock.
Okay.
Speaking
Pretty
of which,
views.
if there's one thing that Bulgarians are proud of, and I'm not even joking, every single Bulgarian I talk to has mentioned this, it would be their unique yogurt. Now, a lot of countries make great yogurt, and people will tell you that the Balkans was actually the birthplace of yogurt. However, Bulgaria is the only place in the world where the yogurt is fermented with the Lactobacillus bulgaricus culture that is only found in the air of Bulgaria. This bacterium gives the yogurt a distinct twang and flavor unlike any other yogurt, and with the milk coming from cows or sheep that typically graze off of high herb-rich pastures, enriching the product with even more health benefits. You come to Bulgaria, we don't mess with our dairy products. You buy it, you buy it! Of course, you also have the Black Sea,
That was more a Russian accent instead of Bulgarian. I feel like.
which Bulgaria has been dependent on for centuries for trade and business, but also has been capitalizing on for tourism. Many Europeans consider the Black Sea coast as kind of like their secret getaway spot that nobody really knows about, because everybody's so concerned about thinking that Barcelona and Nice are the only places that you can go to. Ugh, Valencia? I've been so over that for years. I prefer Burgos. Of course, you've probably never heard of that. Now, here's the cool thing. Because of natural borders by mountains, in conjunction with wind and weather patterns and water flow, Bulgaria is home to a wide variety of entertainingly strange natural landmarks, such as the Belogradchik eroded rock cliffs, the stone mushrooms of Beliplast, the Popti Kamani stones. Also, keep in mind the Popti Kamani area, in addition to the Tabernas region of Spain, is one of the only two naturally occurring deserts in all of Europe. And then we get to something that Bulgaria is definitely not in short supply of: caves and waterfalls. We reach places like the Devil's Throat Cave with the world's highest underground waterfall, the Devetashka Cave with holes in its ceiling, the Eyes of God Cave in Prohodna. In fact, Bulgaria has over 4,500 charted caves in its entire country. Also,
that's a
keep
lot.
in mind, 32 of the 37 species of bats in Europe call Bulgaria home. So if there's one thing you can take away from this, it's that Bulgaria is a very cavey place. Waterfalls also speckle the landscape, mostly in the eastern mountainous regions. The tallest one in the Balkans being the Resko Praskalo, the picturesque Krishuna Falls, and the town with the most fortunate fairy tale view, Vrasta, which has the Skaklia, a waterfall looming above their skyline on the mountain, ever flowing from the cliffs adjacent to the direct vicinity of their town. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. I just can't even. Now, if you ask Bulgarians, one more thing that they'll
Is Paul okay? He don't seem okay. He seem a little crazy.
tell you that they're proud of is their roses. Roses are cultivated all across the entire
Never even knew
country, but
Bulgaria
most heavily
had,
in the Rose Valley, just below the Balkan
specific
mountain
roses to
range.
them.
Bulgaria produces over 70% of the world's rose oil,
Holy
a substance
shit.
used by pressing on the petals and also most commonly used in perfumery. They have so
That's a
many
lot.
roses that typically the abundance allows them to have rose festivals in which they parade around with roses, have a rose queen beauty contest, and they kind of just end up dancing around and throw roses all over the place. Kind of like the La
Nice.
Tomatina festival in Spain, except it's a lot cleaner and more better smelling. Wow, that's the second time we've contrasted Bulgaria with Spain. Let's see if there's any more parallels in.
Friends or demographics? Demographics.
Now,
Okay.
Bulgarians may be Slavic, well, kind of, we'll explain more about that in a bit, but they definitely have their own Bulgarian way of doing things. Bulgaria has a population of about 7.5 million people, most of whom identify as ethnically Bulgarian, at about 85%, 9% of the population being Turks, about 5% are Roma,
Only 9%
commonly
Turkish,
referred to
huh?
as gypsies, making Bulgaria the country with the third highest gypsy population, and the remainder of the country coming from other nationalities. Now, here's the sad thing. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, Bulgaria has one of the highest population declines in the world. They used to have around 9 million people back in 1990, but since then the emigration and death rate has surged past the population growth rate, and since then Bulgaria has seen a rather alarming population decline in the past few decades. This all had to do partially with company privatization and the social structure investments going completely out of whack after independence from the former Soviet Union. Statistics project that about 60,000 people leave Bulgaria every year, and in 2012, 24 towns were completely wiped off the map as they were completely abandoned, and about 170 towns are on the verge of extinction. The good news, though, is that this makes Bulgaria one of the perfect places for cheap shopping, real estate, business, and cheap vacation getaways. In fact, since recently joining the EU and NATO, which has, by the way, caused a lot of controversy, Bulgaria has seen a completely unprecedented level of tourism and business booming. Yeah, economic nerds, Bulgaria is the kind of place where you might want to consider pulling a Warren Buffett. I'm just saying. Ethnic Bulgarian people will tell you that they have roots from the Bulgar tribes, which nomadically came from the eastern regions of Eurasia, as far speculated as the Central Asian regions, until they eventually settled down into what is now known as modern Ukraine. Eventually they came down and mixed in with the Slavs and formed Bulgaria. So technically, a lot of people in Bulgaria could have Central Asian roots, and considering how far the Huns extended their reaches, that's not completely out of the question. Culture-wise, Bulgaria is proud to proclaim itself as the birthplace of the Cyrillic alphabet, used by over 250 million people in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, extending as far as Mongolia. Oh, and one more thing, just like we talked about in an earlier video, like some regions in Albania, Bulgaria is one of the only few places in the world where people shake their head to say yes and nod their heads to say no. Now let's talk about the people Bulgaria interacts with. Now, Bulgaria has one of the most anomalous core of companions that you would never really expect them to engage with comfortably. First off, the strange thing is, in 2004, in addition to other former Soviet states, Bulgaria took a bold step and joined NATO, and 3 years later joined the EU. This was kind of a big deal considering the Soviet-linked past and the ties that Bulgaria was rooted in. This move also opened up Bulgaria's diplomacy to unparalleled standards that they never really had before. All this kind of puts Bulgaria in a very unique intercessory class status when it comes to East versus West. Typically, Bulgaria will kind of act as like a mediator for the EU and NATO when it comes to cross-operational engagements. When it comes to the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, commonly referred to as just Macedonia, Bulgaria has a strange relationship. By all means, these two countries speak the same language and have pretty similar backgrounds as Slavic nations. The problem is where things went down about 80 years ago. Basically, this is what Bulgaria says. Look, Macedonia, we want to love you guys. You're basically just Bulgarians, but you've been brainwashed by Georgy Pilevsky into thinking you have some kind of indigenous Hellenistic roots. You don't. You're Bulgarians. Just accept it. To which the Macedonians say, shut up, Bulgaria. You don't know us. Okay, we are descended from Alexander the Great. You belong to Macedonia. I don't want to say it's kind of like the North-South Korea thing because it's nowhere near that level of animosity, but in a fundamental sense, ideologically, it is kind of like the North-South Korea thing. They generally do not favor Turkey that much because for 500 years they were under the Ottoman Empire and they pretty much hated every second of it. It wasn't until the 19th century when they finally gained their independence with the help of the Russians fighting alongside with them. This means that Russia is kind of seen as like the brother friend of Bulgaria. Even though in every aligned organizational sense they kind of took every step away from Russia, and even though they were kind of taken over by the Soviets for a long time, tensions are low and they still get along great. However, Romania is kind of seen as like the new boyfriend that Bulgaria just started dating. Especially after joining the EU, relations grew fast. The presidents regularly visit each other and hang out. Business is great. Ferries and bridges connect the two countries across the Danube, where people love to visit each other, and Romanian-Bulgarian marriages are not uncommon. In conclusion, wax your mustaches and put on your skinny jeans, because if you are so over the mainstream, you might want to just stop by and smell the roses. Stay tuned, Burkina Faso is coming up next.
That was Geography Now Bulgaria. This was a good video. I think this was actually another one of those well-paced videos because it's a small country. Of course, there's a bunch of history of Bulgaria to dive into, but that's the case for every single fucking nation. And obviously, this is a geography-focused channel and not a history-focused channel, so they obviously don't need to dive into the history. I think this pretty much covered the geography and the demographics of Bulgaria as compared to where, you know, as I have said countless times already, places like, what was it, Afghanistan and I think Brazil are the top two that I think they should revisit and dive into a bit more, because they definitely brushed over a lot of things with those two countries because of how, you know, I don't want to say important because like every country is important to the modern day, but like influential, I guess they are to modern. Influential to the modern day, I guess would probably be a better word. I don't know. But yeah, this one felt like 10, 11 minutes was a good time length for Bulgaria. Obviously, Bulgarians might disagree with me. That's okay. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.